Hello, this is Russel Smith with Home and Garden Innovations, coming to you today to talk about how to grow a 9-foot tall tomato plant. Here at Home and Garden Innovations, our goal and our focus is to bring you innovations that we have found in the home and garden that actually work. Why would you want to grow a 9-foot tall tomato plant, you might ask? Well, in urban areas where you don't have a lot of growing space, a 2-foot by 2-foot area might be all you have to grow your garden. So if you can do a 9-foot tall tomato plant and reap 200 pounds of tomatoes off of one plant, that is the goal for a 9-foot tall tomato plant. So let me show you how it's done. In the early spring, when everybody else is planting their tomatoes, they go down to the local nursery and they buy their tomato plants from this size to this size. First thing they do when they get them home is they dig this little tiny hole about 8 inches by 8 inches, and they bury the tomato so that it's surface level with the pot. From there, they put this little tiny wire cage over it, and they expect to get 20, 30 tomatoes off of this plant. The average gardener does not get a tomato plant that reaches over 2 feet tall, and the tomato plants that are 2 feet tall look like a Charlie Brown Christmas tree. They're just a couple little twigs coming out with a few tomatoes on it. So I want to teach you how to be more efficient in your garden and grow a 9-foot tall tomato plant. So let me tell you what I do. I go down to the local nursery and I find whatever tomato plants they have available. My favorite are the long, lanky ones. But if I can't find those and they just have 6-inch tall ones, I'll settle for that. So when I get home, I don't have the funds to mulch and fertilize and compost my whole garden. I just want to fertilize and mulch and compost right around my tomato. So when I get home, I dig a hole 2 foot by 2 foot wide, 2 foot deep. I dig the hole and then I pull all the dirt out. Then I take my tomato plants. Now, I don't want you to think that this is just one tomato plant. I actually have 3 tomato plants right here growing 9 feet tall. So I take that 2 foot by 2 foot area, and if my tomato plant's only that big, I bury it in the bottom of the hole where the dirt level comes right up to where only 4 or 6 inches of the tomato are sticking out. As I'm burying it, I'm mulching it, and I'm putting compost and fertilizer in there, and I'm mixing it in, and then I'm burying it there. As that tomato grows, remember it's in the bottom of the 2 foot basin that I've created. I will backfill with mulch and composted material until I get to surface level. By the time I get to surface level, I will have 2 feet deep of roots. Tomatoes are one of a select few plants that can grow roots out of any part of their stems. And the way I found this out, I stumbled upon it. About 4 years ago, I had that little tiny wire cage, and my tomato fell over. Well, when it fell over, I was looking at it after a couple weeks, and I noticed a real tiny, skinny vine that went down, and then it was 4 times the size coming out of the dirt. And I looked at it, and I picked it up, and all these roots just yanked out of the ground. And I went, that's interesting, so I bet I can produce a bigger tomato plant. So that's where this whole concept evolved from, is my experience 4 years ago with my tomato plant that fell over. So as it grows, I'll fill it up to dirt level. Now remember, I've got 3 tomatoes inside of this 2 foot by 2 foot square. Well, then I'll put my little tiny wire cage over it and let it grow up. As soon as it starts growing up out of that wire cage, what do I do with it? Well, you're looking at this going, where did you get this big, huge steel cage? I'm a steel worker. I had to build it because there's nothing on the market to grow a tomato plant 9 feet tall. So I built, out of 3/8 inch thick steel round bar, I built a steel collapsible tomato cage. Well, I put my steel collapsible tomato cage on it, and I continue to train my tomato plant to go up through the tomato cage, because the natural response for a tomato is just to go out. So it takes some time to come out once every couple days and train your tomato to go up the cage. Well, the next thing is everybody looks at this and goes, man, that is a beautiful plant. I doubt you have any tomatoes on there. Well, would you believe it that off of these 3 plants alone, I've already given 200 pounds of tomatoes away? Now that is just this bottom portion right here, because essentially that's 9 tomato plants right there, and I have only harvested the first 1.5 feet. 200 pounds of tomatoes. So let me tell you the secret there. Yes, I'm producing a beautiful, beautiful plant, but another secret I'm going to share with you today is how to make sure that every single flower on your tomato plant becomes a tomato. Well, naturally I have to come out and I have to train this tomato plant to go up. So in this case, I'm going to take these plants that are trying to stick out and I'm going to push them up so that they grow up instead of out. And I'm going to do that on the whole tomato plant. This one is kind of long, so I've got to be very, very delicate with it and make sure that I don't break it as I bring it around. So I'm training this tomato plant to go up. Now what do you notice that I'm doing when I'm training this tomato plant? I'm shaking the plants. For these flowers to pollinate, all that needs to happen is the pollen that's inside of the center stem needs to come out and touch any one of these flowers, and you've pollinated it. You've created a little tomato. So look at that little tiny tomato right there that's growing. It's because I come out and when I shake them, I'm pollinating these little flowers. So right now, when you look at my tomato plant, you have the low area where all the tomatoes are gone. I've already harvested it for the first 1.5 feet. Well, there's one that's left right there on the lower portion. It must have just turned red. But then as you go up, you see the next level of tomatoes that are turning. Next level. And then as you keep going up, you see the next level that's a little more orange. And then you start seeing the green, and they start getting smaller as you go up. What ends up happening is I am literally harvesting this 6 inches at a time every week, 6 inches higher. So the ones that are up on the top that are just starting right now, they'll be ready in 2 or 3 weeks. And the ones that are continuing to grow, they'll be ready in a month, month and a half. So I have continual harvest all throughout the season. So this is one of the secrets that I am so excited to share with you today, is how to grow a 9-foot tall tomato plant. Now, you probably are wondering, well, where can I get some of these steel cages? Well, lucky for you, we've come up with a price, and you will find on our website, Home and Garden Innovations, an 8-foot, a 6-foot, and a 10-foot tomato cage. They are very expensive to ship, and so when we ship them, we have to ship them 10 at a time on a pallet to either your home residence or to a local garden center. So if you want your local garden centers to carry these, have them give us a call and order today their 6-foot, 8-foot, and 10-foot tomato cages. Here's my tomato plants looking at the fence from the front yard. And all my neighbors ask, is that up on a pedestal, or where? How do you have that up there? See, and what I'm doing is I think I'm in the tomato tree business, not necessarily the tomato plant business. Okay, here I am at our neighbor's tomato garden, and this is the first year that she's seen my approach at gardening tomatoes. So can you tell us kind of what you did and what you like about the approach we're doing?
Well, I didn't do what Russell did, but my approach was, I know they're supposed to go deep, but I only did it maybe 8 inches, 12 inches. And I started in like the middle of May, and they get sun kind of because of this tree up here. It shades them, but they're definitely not as big as his. His are ginormous, and his have a lot of yield. So next year I'm planning on going deep, big and deep, and see how they work. They're growing, but I don't have a ton of tomatoes, and they're not as big as his.
Here I wanted to show you what an urban gardener who does not have a lot of room for growing has done using our steel system. Theirs are not quite as tall, but you can see that it's almost touching the roof, and in some places it's touching the eave. But they have 9 tomato plants here using our system. And there, look at those beautiful tomatoes. They've got a couple red ones, got some large ones, and as you go up, you'll see tomatoes all throughout this plant. So this is Russell Smith with Home and Garden Innovations. We look forward to hearing from you. Make sure you subscribe to our channel to see all of the cool innovations that we come up with at Home and Garden Innovations.